Welcome to the world of Jones Knows. Today we're installing Lifeproof flooring in a church, and I got some really cool tricks and tips on how to install thresholds and mark boards today on Jones Knows.
It's so beautiful, you and me, we meant to be.
Hi, my name is Tim. I'm a flooring and stair contractor. Been doing this for over 20 years. Helping me in the videos are my two sons, Tristan and Hunter. So this is part 3 of a Lifeproof series. We're installing Lifeproof in a church. We did a preview and prep, then we did a flooring install how-to, and then I did a product review on the floor itself. And now today we're wrapping it up here with some really cool tips and tricks on how to install thresholds and risers. The riser trick that I'm going to show you can be also used on baseboards. So the thresholds are stair nose, but you can use this for T-moldings, reducers, any kind of threshold. I've never given away this tip before, and I can't lie. My son Tristan invented this tip, so I'm not going to take the credit for something he came up with a while back. Let's head out to the job, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Now here's a little a tip for when you're doing trim, whether it's a stair nose, a T-molding, anything that you're putting up against an angled wall, you're meeting up against something that's not straight. We'll put the threshold as close as we can to the wall, and then I'll use a scrap piece of the threshold or even a board, put it up against the wall, and then we draw our line on the molding, and that's going to give us an exact angle of the wall. Rather than going and guessing at it, we're trying to figure it out with a couple different cuts on the saw. And then here we're going to go ahead and cut it. It's a 22-degree angle. I like to use a chop saw. I find with these vinyl moldings, they're basically plastic, that when I cut them on a chop saw, I just like to have a fresh blade, and then I take my time and cut real slow through it because it can bind or get caught up in the saw. Sometimes if they're a straight cut, we'll also use an oscillating saw to cut them. However you cut them, be careful. So once we got them cut to size, it's time to install them. And this is a trick that my son came up with, our trick of the day. The problem that you have when you're using these metal tracks is you're going to screw the track in, but you don't quite know. You think you want to put it in the middle and center it, but maybe it's a little too far out. It's not in the right place. You go to pop your molding and snap your molding into it, and then it's not where you want it to be. So now you got to unscrew it and then do it again, and maybe you're still not where you want it to be. So this is what we came up with. We take 2 scrap or even 3 scrap pieces of the molding, we pop it into the track, and then we put the track in place. Now we put the molding exactly where we want it to be because we have them on the track already, and then we screw the track in there. Now when we pop the scrap pieces out and go to put the real molding in, we know the track is where we want it to be without guessing. A lot of times when you're doing doorways for T-moldings, you're just off by a little bit and then the molding looks crooked, or you're sticking onto the hallway. Not with this trick here. You know exactly where that T-molding is. It's going to cover the floor exactly where you want it to, and you're not going to have any issues when you go to put the molding in the track. Now you can put one on each end. You can put one in the middle as well. You can use one and just move it from end to end. However you want to do it. But we like to put one on each end. We put it in place, and then we screw it in. Once we got it screwed in, it's time to pop the molding in, but we're not done yet. Rather than just popping it in and letting chance hopefully hold it in place, we double down and snap it in. But first we put Sika adhesive. We dab it in. We don't have to get crazy with it, but I like to put a few dabs on the track, and even on in our case here, because we're in a riser, we put it on the top of the riser piece. Now I've doubled down. I have the track holding it in place, and I have the glue holding it in place. And then we use our Lexi mallet to pop it in the track. Now you see with these tracks, they are pretty tight. You don't want to hit it with a regular hammer. We like to use a mallet to tap it in. That way you know it's going all the way in and it's not going to pop out on you. It's foolproof. Nothing's foolproof though, we all know that. So here we are with our next tip now, scribing. So you can use this on baseboards. That's pretty much where I use it most of the time. We're using it on a riser here, but honestly, most of the time, I'm using it to trim baseboards and get them to sit tight to the floor. You notice we got our riser in place here, but there's a big gap in the middle. The ends are touching, but I have a huge gap, and that's not acceptable. We're not putting any trim here. We don't want all that space under it. So what do? We take a marker that is basically, in our case, it worked out to be the same thickness as our gap. Now, if we had a bigger gap, I would take that marker or pencil and put it on a piece of wood to equal the amount of the gap, and then I run it down the board. Wherever it hits the board, that's where I need to cut. Once I cut the board where the marker or pencil line is, when I bring it back, it's going to be a perfect fit to the floor. Now, sometimes you may need to do it twice if you're a little hesitant and don't take enough off, but there's no harm in that. You can always scribe it a second time if you don't get it right the first time. But this is going to eliminate all kind of gaps and spacing underneath your trim. In our case, risers here. It also works great if you're doing a wall of wood and you want your bottom pieces to be touching the ground and not have any giant gaps or spaces under it. So scribing is a really good trick. I learned it years ago. I didn't invent it, but I use it all the time, and it gets my trim nice and tight. Now you still can caulk under it to get it that built-in really super tight look, but you don't even need to if you scribe it just right. You'll have no more gaps underneath your baseboards, flooring, trim, whatever it is you're trying to put up. You scribe it, it's going to make you look really good. If you found that useful and informative, you want to check out some of our other content, we have how-to flooring, stairs, as well as product reviews on vinyl, laminate up against vinyl, having fun videos, travel videos, and my favorite, my cat videos. As I like to say around here, take out your favorite flooring mallet, smash that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos.